Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Ben Data, co-chair of DSW. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of Denver Startup Week. This community has been the catalyst for lots of change over the past decade, and this week we're coming together to celebrate the past and dream big for the future. We are able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our 2021 sponsors. Thank you to our HQ and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors, whose leadership makes this week come to life. Capital One Cafe, Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork. And our track sponsors, who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible. Founder Track, Kickstart, Growth Track, Friday Health Plans, Developer Track, Quizlet, Product Track, Palantir, Designer Track, Battery 621 in the Public Works, People Track, Exactly, and Spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement this week. Thank you to B-Side Fun, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing Company, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, Gusto, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pine Insurance, Promontory Mortgage Path, Red Bull Basement, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our hybrid Denver Startup Week. And don't forget to use hashtag #DenStartupWeek to share your experience and moments of inspiration on social media. Have a great week.
Welcome to this session of Denver Startup Week. I'm Serene Pappenfuss, a principal at Kickstart Fund. We're on a mission to build great companies in the Wild West by backing the boldest entrepreneurs with capital, community, and expertise for the journey. A lot of VCs happen to invest in Colorado. At Kickstart, we focus on it. We love our Colorado startups, Sondermind, Nomad, Pomp, and Havenly, just to name a few. Because we were among the first seed funds in the region, we know what it's like to start something before others understand your vision, which means we're willing to lead investments in promising teams. We use our experiences to grow your startup and recruit top talent. Our portfolio is filled with visionary founders like you who are committed to moving the whole ecosystem together. It's the network effect in full effect. Raising venture capital is more than swapping shares for money. It's inviting the right investors to complement your team. We hope we'll be your choice for seed funding in the Mountain West, and we hope you enjoy this session.
Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, or the combination of those identities. There's something for everyone at DSW, thanks to all of our community members who submitted their best content to make this week what it is. And thank you for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep DSW free and accessible for all, especially our Founder Track sponsor, Kickstart. With that, please enjoy this session and the entire week ahead.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here with this amazing panel today. My name is Kellie Lauth. I'm the CEO of MindSpark, located in Denver, Colorado. And today we are actually going to jump right in. You've been hearing, and throughout the week, you'll hear from amazing entrepreneurs and creators and innovators, great businessmen and women. And in recent years, really the idea and notion of youth entrepreneurism has really taken hold and expanded quite rapidly across the country. And so I have with me today three tremendous human beings who have raised and potentially nurtured three incredible youth entrepreneurs. And so this is our time together. Will you each, and we can start, Rosalind, with you, will you each briefly introduce yourself, your child's business, and a few highlights, and please also brag on them a little bit, share what you're most proud of.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rosalind Goodwin. I am in Columbia, South Carolina. Our entrepreneur is Gabby Goodwin, the CEO of Confidence and the inventor of Gabby Bows. Bring me a bow. She started her business when she was 7. She's now 14 years old. and hit six figures by the 6th grade. What we're most proud of is that she has helped 50 other girls start their own businesses under her brand through her Mommy and Me Entrepreneurship Academy. She was just in some recent news. She was surprised with the $200,000 investment from Marcus Lemonis of The Prophet and Gail King of CBS. So that's a little bit about our girl boss and the impact that she's making around the world.
Oh my gosh, you could not be more proud. That's amazing. So much success. All right, Steve.
I'm Steve Bonneau. I'm the dad of Jack Bonneau. Jack started his entrepreneurial journey when he was 8 years old, and he asked for the Lego Star Wars Death Star. He asked if he can get it. We said, sure, but you'd have to pay for it yourself. He started a lemonade stand at his local farmer's market, but we treated it like a real business. So it was properly permitted, licensed, and that year he made $2,000 in revenue after expenses, about $900, and got his Lego Death Star. When he was 9, he wanted to do it again, but I wanted to share that experience with other kids. So we created jackstands.com, where other kids and their families could actually sign up for multiple locations, where we would provide everything, and Jack would teach them how to operate the stand, take credit cards and such, and at the end go through a mini profit and loss statement to figure out their revenue, expenses, profit, and tips. He moved on. He added also Jack's Marketplace, which worked with other young entrepreneurs from a great bank here, Young Americans Bank, and that became Jack's Stands and Marketplaces. And he was, at the age of 10, the youngest male to successfully pitch on ABC's Shark Tank. He's 15 now. He'll be 16 in December. When he became a teenager, he wanted to do a business that appealed to teens. And so he's the founder of Teen Hustle, which is a hyper-local delivery service offered by local neighborhood teens on eco-friendly bikes and e-scooters. Last year, he was the 2020 U.S. Chamber of Commerce Dream Big Young Entrepreneur. And this Wednesday, he'll be pitching Teen Hustle to the Denver Startup Week pitch competition finalist.
Gosh, I mean, again, tremendous. I'm having a hard time getting my teenagers to even take out the trash. So you guys are beyond inspiring to all of us. So thank you so much. Tom, what about you? Tell us about your extraordinary kiddo.
My name is Tom Morse. I have the privilege and honor to work with the funnest young CEO out there. Her name is Alina Morse. She's a brilliant young businesswoman. At 7, we went to the bank one day. The teller offered her a sucker, and she said, "I know it's filled with sugar." And I said, "Yeah, it is. So it's up to you." And probably a little bit of guilt, but her tenacity took over, and she said, "Why can't we make a healthy lollipop that's good for you and you can't say no to?" That was, at age 7. By 9, she created a product, pitched it to Whole Foods, got it into stores, and it's currently distributed in about 20,000 stores across America. We sell in 8 countries. She's been the fastest growing candy company in Inc. 5000 the last 3 years. Entrepreneur of the Year finalist at EY last year, and just a super fun person to be around. And I can't imagine being in business with anybody else or helping somebody else achieve their dreams. So,
well, huge kudos to all of you. So what I heard each of you describe briefly was this kind of idea that their ideas came from either problems that they were trying to solve or a need that they saw perhaps in their own backyard, in their community, within their family. And also I love this idea of expanding it outwards. So can you just talk, each of you, a brief, a couple minutes on who or what are the greatest influences on your child's ideas? I mean, I think all children have really great ideas. The fact that your 3 exceptional children have taken them this far says so much about you as parents and about your investment of time and energy into them. But really, where do these ideas come from, right? What are the greatest influences on those? And maybe Tom, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think it's just asking questions. I think her influence is really her own curiosity and confidence that she can do anything. By reading and exploring and discovering new things, I think that's really kind of helped inspire. One of her earliest ideas was to make robot daddies. And, she came up with that idea because she wanted to have a daddy that was around more, I think. So, but it came from a place of confidence, believing in herself, believing that she could do anything. And I think that's really encouraging him to ask questions is key to that.
I mean, that's a skill that is timeless, right? It's something you need your whole life. Rosalind, what about you? Where does Gabby get her ideas? Who influences those?
Yeah, and before I answer, let me say, just because they're CEOs doesn't mean we don't have challenges with the trash or cleaning their room.
That's making me
They
feel a
are
little bit
still-
better about my
They're
parents.
still normal kids. I just want to clarify that. Much like Gabby's peers here on this panel, you know, this is the Gabby bow that she now has 3 patents on. But you know, she was getting in trouble. Honestly, I was frustrated with her. She'd come home, I'd style her hair. We spend 20 minutes, send her to school. She'd come back with her hair all over the place because her barrettes had disappeared and her hair was all out of place. So it was a constant source of frustration between the two of us. But like Tom said, it was just this creativity in that age, that precious age that no one has contaminated you to second guess your thoughts. She really believed that we could solve this problem and that we could create a barrette that would stay in her hair. And I think our role as parents is to help to nurture, cultivate that creativity, don't squelch it, even though there was certainly times when she would come to me because she started asking me about this at 5. And the whole concept and idea was very scary to me. No experience with entrepreneurship, not to mention inventing anything. So it is definitely that creativity, but it's the creativity that is uncontaminated and not squelched by parents who I really do believe are the biggest influencers.
I would even say that carries over into schooling as well, right? I mean, we see sometimes our best and brightest scientists or some thinkers are our 5-year-olds or our first graders, right? So I definitely see where you're coming from. Steve, what about you?
So Jack had a different path. My background is of one of being an entrepreneur. So when I saw an opportunity that Jack really wanted something that he was passionate about, then we saw an opportunity to say, okay, fine, then figure out how you're going to get that. And that was his entree into, probably reluctantly, but being an entrepreneur, but he had the motivation of getting the Lego that he wanted. And so this is what I like about this panel, because it comes from, different, points of view and aspects, but we look at it as this is a necessary skill set. Whether they become entrepreneurs or not, it does not matter. But in today's world, you need entrepreneurial skills. You need to know how to problem solve. You need to, understand how to take rejection and learn from it and move on. So it was more of a learning experience that we wanted to expose Jack to.
Such a beautiful segue into this next discussion. So as you guys are well aware, the panel title is Youth Entrepreneurship, Nature, Nurture, or Necessary Skill Set. So it sounds like there's some varying opinions on the panel. What is each of yours perspective on this question? I mean, are these just naturally born entrepreneurs and you're happy and lucky enough to be their parent, or is this something that really has been nurtured, or like to Steve's point, is this necessary skill that is important to you that you've kind of kept it going? So anyone who wants to jump in, what is your perspective on that?
Well, I'll go. So I think that there is a spark inside of Alina, that she does ask really good questions and she's not content. Great entrepreneurs kind of have a vision, and they have an ability to communicate that vision to others and sort of, get people to buy into this idea. And from a skill standpoint, she's really refined her ability to communicate and present and, engage people in that vision that she has. So I think it's, there's a spark there, and maybe a mindset that I think we helped put in place. Like we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when she was about five years old together. And she still applies the concepts better than 99% of the adults that I know, including myself. So, you kind of build that foundation and then, help them find the skills so that they can do amazing things.
Steve?
So I believe it's a necessary skill set. And from there, it goes into tooth path, whether your son or daughter it's it's nature, so it's part of their DNA, it's part of that, they have that spark, or it's something nurtured. From our point of view, it was something that's nurtured. Actually, we take it from a bit of a point of view of actually being taught, putting Jack into experiences that he might not otherwise have. No different than, your son or daughter playing a sport. They're going to play a sport, they're going to learn, they're going to get coaching from others, they're going to have those experiences, and then they'll build on them to the degree that they're interested in and moving forward. But for us, Jack has learned so much through his experiences that he wouldn't necessarily otherwise have. He turns out that he does like to speak to others, encourage others through his speaking with tens of thousands of kids. So he likes public speaking. He likes to be able to inspire other kids through his businesses. And these things wouldn't necessarily have he wouldn't necessarily have generated those on his own. So we look at it from, it's a necessary skill set, one that could be nurtured or taught.
Awesome. What do you think?
I think it's a little bit of all three. I look back on some of our early days and experiences with Gabby, and when she was doing ballet, and she had very strong leadership qualities that we could see. We'd show up at the recital, and let me stress, it was at the recital, not the practices. And the girls she was dancing with were in the row with her, and if somebody was off in the middle of the recital on the stage, she was directing them, no, that's wrong. Let me practice this. This is, they're wrong. And I was a little embarrassed, but I was like, okay, yeah, she's just naturally, there's some leadership ability that is there. She wants things to be done right. She wants everyone to be consistent and to look their best. So there was some nature portion of that, but of course we had to nurture it. What people don't realize now that Gabby is a traveling keynote speaker, she was extremely shy, definitely afraid to speak to anyone she did not know. So we had to nurture that skill, push her in a number of ways. I mean, there have been times she's been at the head table about to speak, telling me she needed to use her notes, and I had to say no. And the tears would just well up in the corner of her eye, like I was the worst mommy in the world, because I wouldn't let her take her notes up. And then she did an amazing job. But those are the days that you're nurturing those gifts. And what we've learned helping 50 other girls in 16 states start their own businesses through our academy is that all of those girls have very different skill levels. I think all of them have some type of spark. It could be leadership. It could be the desire to help other people, but you can nurture that and then give them the necessary skills. And we tell our moms in the academy all the time, it may not be that entrepreneurship is their path, but the life skills that you gain from learning entrepreneurship, making eye contact, a firm handshake, learning how to sell a product or yourself. You need to know how to do that, whether you're going to interview for someone else's business. So I really believe in all three, depending on what stage and what age your child is in.
So a few of you have touched on this. So I've heard leadership, I've heard asking questions. So Steve, what do you think are some of those other essential skills that parents should recognize or help cultivate in their child to further their young entrepreneur?
That they should have a goal of making 1 million mistakes.
Embrace failure, right?
Embrace failure. It's not, there's two things here. Embrace failure, but also making a learning experience. And I forget what the term was, but Gabby actually has a real nice saying about failure. And maybe you can help me remember that, Rosalind, but something about, I know you know what I'm talking about, but embracing failure and not being afraid. What's the worst? Somebody's going to say no. So what? Move on.
And then, Rosalind, how do you, besides sharing that amazing saying with us, how do you actually help kind of model embracing failure and disappointment and helping Gabby move forward when things don't go her way or don't go the way you all expected? Because that's a huge lesson, right? For any entrepreneur, is to get an idea off the ground, kind of excuse language, but if it sucks, kill it off and go again. And that iterative process is so vital to entrepreneurship. So how do you keep her in that cycle of going forward?
Sometimes I think she's taught me more than I've taught her, but obviously she saw something in me, something in my husband that made her get this type of resilience. And this phrase Steve was talking about, Gabby had just pitched before a live studio audience and came in second for $50,000. Second means you get nothing but tears and humiliation in front of thousands of people. And this is going to be aired on TV. Just like any other insensitive camera person would do, they were right in her face right after this was over. And Gabby was 9. So I think they asked her, how she felt or something. It's all a blur right now. This was a number of years ago, about 5 years ago. And I could barely even stop them before they were talking to her, but she was willing to talk with them. And this came out that she's been saying ever since. She said, no, it's just an abbreviation for next opportunity. And everybody's jaws dropped. It was like, what? This 9-year-old girl just say that?
Smarter than her.
She was obviously crying on this stage with all of these lights. And that's just something we have lived by. And I guess at some point she saw her dad and I, have those disappointments, have those failures, but, get back up the next day and keep going. And she just really believed. And that's why it's just so important for us as parents to nurture those dreams and ideas before they're contaminated with people telling our kids what they can't do. At 9 years old, she really believed that, okay, $50,000, maybe she didn't know how much it was for us at that time, but she just knew there would be a next opportunity that was coming for her. And she really believed, okay, this is just a no, there will be a next opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, I would say that's what I tell my students all the time. The one thing I can teach you that sticks is to embrace failure and kind of fail fast and pivot. Then that's the most invaluable lesson. Tom, how do you keep your young entrepreneur motivated? And kind of, I'm sure ideas come in fast and furious, and some are fleeting and some are sticking. And so how do you keep your young entrepreneur going forward and motivated?
So, early on, Alina identified that tooth decay was the biggest epidemic facing kids in America today. And so that became, what was surprising about that was that it's preventable. And it's, as easy as brushing your teeth, flossing, just good oral care. So that became her mission. And through that, she gives millions of lollipops to kids in schools across America. Families benefit from it. They learn about it. And through that, I think that's really, that intrinsic value of helping others and helping kids smile. The letters and the emails and the responses we've had back from schools and parents and teachers is amazing. And, I'd say that's probably one of the greatest influences or the greatest motivators for her. That, and she's highly competitive. I think all these kids are, they're living in a very competitive space of adults as well as their peers. So, it's really about, not losing and being number one. And why can't we be the number one candy on Amazon, even if we're sugar-free, why, so she's figured out a way to become the number one sugar-free candy on Amazon. So I think it's that competitive spirit helps motivate. And then, look, you're always going to have some off days. That's just comes with the territory. I remember the first sales call she went on to Whole Foods, and she pitched the buyer. She did a great job. The buyer was very polite. And at the end, the buyer said, "We'll let you know." And Alina said, "What does that mean? We'll let you know." She said it to her again. She said, "We'll let you know." And so she walked out and she's like, "This is ridiculous. They're going to let us know." She knew right then. Why didn't she just tell us? And I said, well, that's part of it. So, it's not the only deal out there. And, so I think that tenacity, resiliency, and just keeps you motivated and keeps you hungry for the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The next question is a little bit more about you all. And so how has this changed your life? I mean, I think about, Steve, to your point earlier, we always invest heavily in our children, right? We want them to be successful and find happiness and, be hopeful and joyful. So as parents, we give a lot, but truly when I think about what you all have, truly given and in the most positive sense to your children, how has this changed you in kind of your family, or what influences has this had in your life? And whoever wants to start.
For Jack and I and Mary, it's been a gift. We certainly understand it's not only a luxury, but a gift to be able to work with Jack with these experiences. It's just really, being a part of those experiences that are varied, that are new, that take him, different places, to see him grow. It sees us grow. We're learning from it. I really couldn't ask or have the audacity to want, prior to all this, what it's really meant to be able to work with your child like this.
I mean, it's a partnership of kind of the purest sense. Yeah, absolutely. You can see that.
It definitely creates another layer of relationship. I mean, there's the the business side and there's the family side, and you kind of live in both these worlds. I mean, they live in both these worlds, and I think as parents, we sort of live in both these worlds. But I'd say the greatest thing is just a lot of fun. I mean, traveling around with Alina is always fun, whether it's scooters in an airport, or it's riding bikes in Paris or doing something like it's always a fun adventure. So. Yeah.
Spend more time together as we've built a business together. Our family has spent more time together. She's inspired her little brother. She's inspired us as her parents. So it's definitely been a blessing. It's been a gift to our family.
So some people would wonder kind of how do you strike the balance with any, young entrepreneur or great athletic child or a great artist or, a child who's a wonderful musician. How do you strike that balance between letting a child be a child in some sense, and then, keeping your own expectations sort of realistic and intact, knowing that they are motivated and have these extraordinary, opportunities and gifts? How do you guys manage all that? Rosalind, why don't you jump in?
I think a lot of that is keeping outside influence outside and just really allowing the child to, at that level and age of their comprehension, make a lot of decisions and choices about when they want to take a break, when they want to do things. I'm really big on empowering Gabby about decisions she wants to make. Not so much so that as a parent, I know there's certain things. I give this example to our Academy moms a lot. I will say, okay, Gabby, you need to go live between now and tomorrow because we have the sale going on. Let me know what time you want to go live. So I'm giving her decision-making authority within the window, but I'm still being her parent. You see what I'm saying? I think sometimes people just go to different extremes, and then there's not a healthy parenting relationship that's there, or the child is just totally being dominated. So I think it's finding that balance to say, okay, I'm still your parent. You still obey what I say. But here's this leeway that I can give you some freedom in making a decision, if that makes sense. I also don't allow people to make her older than she is. Like, she's 14. Like, we monitor social media accounts. There's just certain ways, guardrails that we're having to be a little bit more intentional about her, particularly now that she's a teenager, that we're not letting society or the people outside, even customers, force her into being older than she is. A lot of our brand is about girls being happy about being girls and their hair. So that's a big part of the brand, and we do a lot to shield and make sure that she stays 14 while she's 14, and when she's 15, she'll be 15.
Steve or Tom?
I would say, I would echo everything that Rosalind said. For Jack, we make sure that he has the ability to still have his, friends, his too much screen time, making sure that he's got, he's very motivated in school. And so those are some of the guardrails. And like Rosalind said, empower him to, okay, this is what's coming up this week. What's your schedule? This is some of the commitments that you may have. So how can we, fit all that in and work that out? But also, it's not like Jack he knows the day-to-day, but he's also, that's why for Teen Hustle, he's the founder and chief evangelist. We will raise funds for this. And so it's let's call it a more serious effort than Jack Stands, which is now a nonprofit. But, he's got his role, and that allows those guardrails to go around and for him to, again, not be older than 15 or 16 and maintain, going to homecoming last night. So that sort of thing.
Such a healthy balance for sure. Tell me, anything to add?
Yeah, entrepreneurship, I don't think there's balance and entrepreneurship are synonymous at all. So I think, at some point, Alina makes decisions. Sometimes she goes to a dance, sometimes she focuses on a pitch. And I think that's kind of part of growing up and balancing life and, balancing your schedule and time management. So, all the things that both Rosalind and Steve said, it is a balancing act. Sometimes we'll say, hey, you got to just cool off and just do these things, and which are your friend stuff, or your dance stuff, or whatever else is going on, tennis, whatever else is she's passionate about, feels good about, because too much work make people pretty dull. So you gotta have fun along the way. So I'd say it's just a balancing act, and encouraging her to make smart choices about what's going on in her life, be it social or business.
Many adults could learn so much from your 3 children, especially about that work and life balance. Just getting it a little bit more into the nitty gritty here. So a few of you have entrepreneurial backgrounds, and some don't. So, there's a lot that goes into building a business, certainly, right? Determining whether an idea has a market value, determining the infrastructure of that business, the marketing strategy, certainly, your revenue streams. And I think Steve earlier, Jack's been teaching revenue and loss statements now for a while. So what kind of resources and what kinds of, things do parents or adults who are going to support young entrepreneurs, where do you go to get help? Where do you go to get resources? If you don't know what a basic profit and loss statement looks like, where do you get started, and how do you help cultivate this?
I can start. We had no background, didn't grow up around entrepreneurship at all. I was raised to go to school, get multiple degrees, get a great job, stay on it, and get a watch when I retired. That's how I was raised. So when she came to us about this idea of creating a barrette that would stay in her hair, my immediate thought was, okay, let's come up with an idea. If you're that serious about it, because she was nagging us about it every day. It took us about 2 years to come up with the concept. I was trying to sell it to an established hair accessory company, put some money aside for her college, so she could go to college, get multiple degrees, get a great job, and get a watch when she retired. That was the plan. And when it did not work, we were stuck with this idea. And this, at that point, 6-7-year-old every day still asking, when are my bows coming? So we launched the business with some legal advice just to disclose the product first, because I had sent it out to so many people. I mean, I could write a book about all the stuff you don't do when you have an idea or when you're trying to start a business. I did all of it wrong. No trademark, no nothing, no patent, no provisional patent, just sending out drawings of a concept with no protection So we just disclosed it through a website, and then the business took off, and we were like, oh snap, like we're in business. I wasn't trying to start a business, but when reality set in that we had orders and we were in business, even though I wasn't trying to start one, I reached out to score.org. They're local free mentors to help you all over the country. They're in most cases retired and have been successful in business. I started with mentors through SCORE. I got connected to our city and our county business opportunity offices. Started going to their conferences. At that time, they were having in-person conferences and going to their meetings, getting on their mail list, getting involved with the small business development centers that are affiliated with the SBA. So all of those different offerings. Our county library had services for entrepreneurship and business. All of these things were free. At that point, that's all I could afford, and that's all, but there were so many free resources through your county, through your city, through your library. 1 Million Cups is another networking opportunity in many cities, and it's free, so SCORE. So all of these different opportunities and networking right in your local community. And then you meet someone who says, have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? There's a Facebook group of entrepreneurs doing this. And then, we started going to local vendor shows, and we met other entrepreneurs who would say, are you familiar with this? I'm involved with this group. So it was just meeting people, finding out what they were doing for information. Eventually we started investing in some coaching because we just did not have any type of background in it. But that's where we started, with those local free resources, and it just began to grow and build from there.
Those are some great resources. Thank you for sharing those, Steve.
So Jack started with a lemonade stand, and everything has gone organically, but we just made it, okay, fine, lemonade stand. You want to do it at the end of your street or in the driveway? How many people are going to come by? Okay, well, what about a farmer's market? It's just, we organically, okay, you reach out there. Okay, now you need, it's easy to find out that you probably need a business license, talk to other people who are at the farmer's market, what they need and that sort of thing. And so organically grew from there. Once he got to that point, then started, just at every plateau, kind of looking around, what's the next step? Where do you go from there? For Teen Hustle, if, as Jack turned 13, if he didn't have to do another lemonade stand during the day or over the course of the summer, he would have been fine with that. And so Teen Hustle was the same exact way. It just started out, okay, there's this thing called DoorDash. They're delivering a lot of food. We have restaurants in our area. You have a bite. Why, we started talking over the years about paper routes. Kids used to have paper routes. They're actually their own small business. They haven't had those in years. But starting, with that mindset, okay, can we bring back these opportunities for other kids? And that really organically started Teen Hustle. And we didn't even know at the time, but between Jack Stands and Teen Hustle, there was an underlying theme that developed, and that was to empower other kids to have these experiences where they wouldn't necessarily. So it was really organic on our part. My background, yeah, I'm not a classically, no degree, learned everything on my own. When I started out as an entrepreneur, I didn't even know how to spell it. So it's all one step at a time. And once you get to a certain plateau, look around, okay, where do you want to take it from here?
What about you?
I'd say that from the beginning, it's always been about the team. And, Alina identified pretty early that she couldn't make candy in her kitchen and satisfy the demands of the business. And it probably wouldn't be healthy either. So, it's always been about like, who's that next person, or who's that next vendor or supplier, and finding great partners for the business and bringing them in, as early as possible. And, it takes a team to make all these things happen. So, we've consciously tried to put resources around her that could support her, could help her. She's got a great accountant named Larry who he has helped her with her math homework, you know, and as well as other people, from design, packaging, candy formulations, food technologists, flavor houses. I mean, it's with the new items, it's a new adventure. We just launched peanut butter cups, for example. So that was exploring the chocolate. We're working on gummies. So that's a whole nother manufacturing process. So she's learned a lot by asking questions and then finding really good people that are experts in those areas. And I think, as time's gone, she's picked up on a lot of that knowledge and added it to her.
Yeah, that's so important, that networking and collaboration piece. So I wanted to mention to those who are still with us, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll make sure that our panelists address those. So please, if anyone wants to, jump in with a little bit of Q&A, please make sure that you do so. So obviously you guys have created the environment for your kiddos to thrive, even if lots of lessons learned. And yet students spend the majority of their day at school. And so I just would be really curious, because at MindSpark, we work directly with schools to actually help them understand how valuable it is to be entrepreneurial, not only for themselves, but to also have entrepreneurial programming for students. So talk to me a little bit about, in your opinion, what can schools do, or maybe even other community organizations do, to help cultivate more young entrepreneurs or get more ideas off the ground, and not just have them live, briefly in the moment, but actually, bring them to fruition and help them get their feet underneath them.
I could jump in on that. So there's two things. One is, when Jack was in middle school, he was fortunate to be a part of a school called STEM Lab. And when Jack was appearing on Shark Tank, and then subsequently, with the Today Show, or had to travel here or there, give talks to other schools, the mindset of that school was, hey, we'll support you, through technology. Today it was through, Google School, or I forget what it was called, but through online, he was able to keep up with his studies. But he received so much encouragement that what he was doing was as valuable, if not more valuable, through his experiences in middle school. So that mindset just 180 changed everything. As far as schools, this is something that I'm fairly passionate about, where our society is so focused, there's a lot of focus on youth sports, and that's fantastic. But the odds of, one son or daughter being able to get into the professional ranks are a lottery ticket chance. I would like to see schools embrace entrepreneurship on the school level. I know Kelly's been a very big supporter of that, but not take away, obviously, youth sports, but provide more of a balance. There are kids out there, if they had the resources, would go down this path, and they really, that's why we're asking the question, where do you get your resources, find mentors, things along those lines, because the schools aren't able to support this at this level.
Yeah, Tom, what do you think?
I'd say that the things that have, maybe not as much as with Alina, but I'd say with Lola, her sister, who came up with the name for Zollipops, she did a Shark Tank competition at school, and it was real world. And I think the more things that schools do that are real world, not just like a class project, but throw it out there, try it. I mean, nowadays it's that easy to pop something up on YouTube or on Pinterest and see what real response you get, and try these real world things to see what you get. And then you learn, every comment, every note is valuable and will help shape that. So, I share Alina's first experiment with candy she gave to all of her friends. and they told her her suckers sucked. And, and she learned. She said, but that didn't stop her. Well, I can make them better, was her response. So, I'd say it should be more real world. We live in a world that anybody can publish a movie today. Anybody can, create an Instagram account and take advantage of that and make these things real world so they count and measure it on that basis.
Yeah, I love that, embracing that authentic learning. I think this is entrepreneurship go hand in hand. Rosalind?
I couldn't agree more. We certainly had great support, not only from teachers, but all the way to the superintendent level for Gabby. When she was named the youngest ever South Carolina Young Entrepreneur of the Year, it was a second grade teacher who nominated her. And we've had that type of great support from our school district ever since. And like I said, it's been from the school board, from them recognizing her, to the superintendent, inviting her to different things. So that support is just invaluable from every aspect of the educational system, not just the teacher you can make the absence, excused and give the work ahead of time so she can do it on the plane, but to the principal, to the superintendent, to the board. And that just really encourages others to say, okay, we can. And people have been shocked of how well our school district and teachers have worked with Gabby, because they are certainly young entrepreneurs who are peers of our children who've had a hard time, particularly with public school, staying in public school and being able to run a business, because they've run into so many roadblocks and just the lack of support from the school system. Gabby's very fortunate now to even be in a high school that has an entrepreneurship arm. So the school has like 4 departments, and basically the state school curriculum is run through the lens of entrepreneurship, through the lens of STEM, through the lens of our environmental science, through the lens of entertainment. But one of the E's is entrepreneurship. So we're really excited about that. It's a very unique school, very fortunate that it's in our district, but that's a model that so many other schools can be using. There are a lot of schools that are magnets for many things, performing arts and international studies. We need a lot more schools to have an emphasis on entrepreneurship or apply for magnet status to be entrepreneurship led.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could just throw in there, it doesn't have to be completely entrepreneurship driven. It can be as simple as a design class, or an art class, where it becomes, okay, let's design this package, and then we'll put a vote out on social media of the best classes package. So it provides that real feedback loop, and there's all sorts of different disciplines in a business. It's not all just, accounting, finance, innovation. So, debate, for selling and stuff. So, it could weave into all these different aspects of curriculum. And I think supporting that through that business side of it, it makes it real.
So time for a few more here. And I'm not seeing questions from our audience yet. Hopefully I'm looking at that correctly. So a couple more here. So if students don't, or kiddos don't have a Rosalind, a Steve, or a Tom in their life, and they have these amazing ideas, we know that mentorship really matters, right? So if it's not the parent, then finding a supportive adult to kind of nurture these ideas forward is important. And we've seen that over and over in our own STEM schools, and providing students with this network of adults who will help them get to the right resource and help them figure this out. So what is the one single piece of advice that you would give to fellow mentors, could be parents as well, to help identify early entrepreneurs, 1, and 2, to make sure that we can find more of them, we can uncover more of these talents and thinkers? Like, what would you say? Just short and sweet. What is the piece of advice? What are we looking for here?
I would like to see, go ahead.
Oh, I would just say, look for the problem solvers. There are people who see a problem and complain about it or fuss about it or pout about it. But the ones who say, okay, let's fix this. There's got to be a way to fix this. That is just an invaluable skill for anyone who wants to be successful in entrepreneurship.
Love that.
I would also say that being a kid, being a youth, and having that spark, and you're trying to find resources, it's actually an advantage. Obviously, do this all through your parents, but there's so many angel investors, there's so many VCs, there's so many people who have been successful. And if the child is able to articulate what they're looking for and what they want, 90+% of those individuals would be glad to help out a young person.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, the only thing I would add is confidence. You know, it's that person that can actually that believes and can get others to believe with them. That is just a key to entrepreneurs.
Nice. Rosalind, there was a question that popped up for you. What was the name of the school you shared about?
Absolutely. It is Spring Hill High School, Chapin, South Carolina. It is an award-winning school, and the model can definitely be duplicated. Spring Hill High School.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important part of what you've all shared is this can be very, very community driven and very, very sort of, if you will, a little, you know, grassroots. It just doesn't have to, we don't have to drop in these massive courses or massive curriculum plays. I mean, this can happen pretty organically and even create, you know, and it can happen in after school clubs. So there is another one that popped up. It says, we're starting a K-8 in invention and entrepreneurship magnet school. Yay. What do you recommend for the learning experiences, especially for little ones? Anybody want to tackle that? Steve, I know.
You know,
Jack started. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, you know, our daughter Lola was in a magnet program, and they would do team projects, and they would, you know, give them a problem to solve or build something or build this, you know, and they give them the tools, but they wouldn't give them the elements that could go into it. And the creativity that came from those, I was just blown away how, so, you know, more project oriented, team oriented, just give them the elements and let them figure it out, and hands off, you know.
Love that.
Exactly. Problem-based learning. Whatever the problem is, if it's business or it's another one, you know, have the kids, you know, just tackle the problem, bring it to an authentic audience, get that feedback. And I believe that's partly, you know, a large way you're on your way.
That sounds amazing, Kevin. Yeah, I'd love to stay connected with you as you move forward, because that whole process of Gabby coming to us with the idea of let's create a barrette, you know, that whole process of, okay, let's do some research. Has this problem already been solved? So we spent months just Google, Amazon, you know, just trying to figure out, has someone tried to tackle this problem before? We went to the store and we found every type of barrette we could. We ordered some online, and then we put them all together, and then we just experiment and say, okay, we're going to send you to school with these barrettes on. How many are going to come back? And then she, you know, if someone came back, she said, well, this one didn't slip off the bed. And then we do just observations, just like you do with science projects. And, you know, all of her science projects have been, just had a whole new meaning for me after going through the whole invention process. So it's just research and discovery and taking notes and trying a different thing. Let's try these barrettes today, and then writing down our observations at the age and level of her comprehension. You know, maybe it was the spiky things that helped it stay in my hair, mommy. Let's try these the next day, and just keeping up with those observations and saying, okay, this is what we think worked. If we could put all of that in one barrette, wow, maybe this could work. You know, and we brought in someone who could draw, and we tried to communicate what we had in our head as far as what the idea was. And that's literally how this started. So any of that you can do with these young minds, you know, who knows, so many problems that are solved for the everyday consumer.
Another great question here for anyone who wants to tackle this one. How do you inspire your children to not be intimidated by kind of their lack of age or experience, especially in business negotiations?
So I'd say the easiest thing is share stories about other amazing kids like Gabby, and Alina, and Jack. And these are pretty inspiring. I mean, and the difference is when they're speaking, kids listen. As opposed to a parent or someone older that, it's like wow, 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 in like peanuts, So I'd say, have them tell their stories with million smiles. Another thing that we do is we give lollipops to schools, to teachers that apply. It's really easy. It takes 3 questions and the whole school gets them. And then they can have this conversation with them about, hey, you could do this. Look at this other kid that did this, So it makes it more tangible and reachable.
I love that. Steve, anything to add?
Yeah, that's one of the things that Jack does, is to be able to reach out to youth so they see themselves in him and can better identify and think that it's possible for them. I would also say, Jack was shy. He wasn't a natural born speaker, but just the fact that you put yourself out there. So yeah, they're not going to get it right. But then, you come back home, whatever. Hey, maybe we can work on this and make this a little bit better. It's all an organic process, but the most important thing is to do that process.
Agree. All right. There's no other questions in the chat. I have one last final question for you. What's next for these amazing children that you have? What's next for your young entrepreneurs? Or what's next for you?
No, we'll certainly share, continuing to grow, build the brand, doing some feasibility studies on some service-based extensions of the full line. Of course, Gabby's extended beyond barrette. She has a full hair product line now. And we're considering opening the first of many girls' hair salons. So that is what we are studying right now. In the meantime, we'll continue to grow the business, as well as expose more girls to entrepreneurship through our Mommy and Me Entrepreneurship Academy.
Kudos to you guys.
For Jack, so Jack Stands just recently converted to a nonprofit with the goal of working with other nonprofits and schools who want to bring that program into their local area. There's a few nonprofits and schools that Jack's starting to work with right now. So we'll continue that. Teen Hustle, continue to expand that, hopefully nationwide. Once Jack goes to college, it's his call. But we hope to continue this process of both Jack Stands and Teen Hustle to have kids have these experiences and opportunities and inspire the next Gabby, the next Alina, and hopefully the next Jack.
Yeah, so with her nonprofit, Alina's goal is that every kid in America has a lollipop in their mouth, and they learn about oral care. There's 22 million kids. We're at 4 million right now that we contribute a year. So the goal is to get to 22 million with partnerships and as well as our self-funding. And then, from a business standpoint, we're expanding into snacks, more high consumption products like peanut butter cups, like gummies. We've got some other fun snackable items coming out in 2022. So, just continue to grow the Zolly brand and have a lot of fun.
It just seems like right now, especially in that the food market is just exploding with such fun alternatives, and such a great time to be in that space for all of you. I mean, this has just been such a highlight of certainly my week, and I cannot thank you enough. Your extraordinary children are making a huge difference for everybody, and I'm just honored to have spent time with you all today, and thank you for all that you do. And if there's no further questions, then I think we are good. Thank you all so much for today.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for having us.
You.